All right, so now they're working on the assessment. So, and we're at, let me check. We're at 1 hour and 20 minutes exactly. What questions do you all have for me?
I don't know if I have any questions at the moment. I think that the more that I think about it, the more that will come up. But
Okay.
I'm just trying to process everything that just happened and like the way that you implemented the lesson.
It was fairly close to your lesson plan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Like the one thing, I mean, like the reality of teaching is like you lesson plan and then you go with it, right? The lesson planning prepares you for the going with it. So I had an idea like what trajectory, like what sequence of events wanted to happen, but like what happens during those events, that's almost impossible to predict.
For sure.
What were some things you noticed?
That you had to like, I liked when your son started talking about the table being a mirror, so then kind of redirected him and let me re-ask the question.
Yep. Which is, again, is very normal for elementary kids, right? Like, especially like, I mean, even when I taught 7th grade, I remember I had a kid who like just loved to tell stories about his dog. And so I'd ask a question about particles and he'd go off on his dog. And as soon as this kid started talking, I always thought to myself, okay, I gotta listen for something I can use. Listen for something I can use. And he started talking about his dog's saliva one time. I said, oh, let's talk about your dog's saliva. What do you think the particles of the saliva look like? Draw that picture. And like, you know, as far as that kid's thinking, it's like, oh, I contributed to the conversation, you know, and this kid was really bright. Like he did a great job as far as the conceptual understanding and things like that. But like it would just like his train of thought would just derail the whole class, and I couldn't let that happen. What other things did you notice or?
I noticed the flashlights were pretty distracting.
Yeah. Yep. Say it again.
You could kind of assume they were going to be, but then we obviously saw firsthand that it was hard for them to put them down and stuff.
Keep going, guys. If you're done, that's fine. Yeah, and there's only 3 of them, right? And so that's where like having them like, and so what I would do like think about Borzo's room, like where she had those counters around the outside. Like that's a perfect setup because you can say, put your flashlight on the counter, and then sit down, and we'll have this little conversation, and then you'll go back to getting the flashlight. Because it's just, you just can't, if it's near them, they'll use it. Yeah. And it's not their fault, it just is.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that, I feel like I noticed like as the lesson went on, like they were kind of getting just tired of doing it. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's just because we did them all together?
Yeah.
Or like, do you think that they enjoyed the lesson, and if it would have been broken up, that would have been more apparent?
I think.
I enjoyed it.
I think, well, one, like, they're thinking really hard, and they were thinking really hard for 1 hour and 20 minutes. Right? That's a long time. So at one point, I actually thought about, you know what, maybe I'll just let them, like, go run around the house real quick and then come back, because they just needed to get something out. And so they were sitting still, they were thinking, and they're and focus thinking for 1 hour and 20 minutes is a long time. And so, so like I would not recommend doing this activity as like a one-day thing. I think that 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes makes a lot of sense.
Oh, for sure. Okay.
And it's also where like when you have, you know, literacy block or math block for 1.5 hours, like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Like break it up with something, which is, you know, is where science can actually be really useful at the elementary school, at the elementary levels. You can say, all right, we're going to do this literacy stuff about, you know, whatever topic. Now let's go outside. Let's make some observations about nature. We'll come back in and we'll write about what we saw. Right? So the nature time, the science time provides kind of a context for the writing and the reading.
Okay.
What else?
I guess I just noticed how you kind of like guided the lesson. Like if they started to get off a little bit, you'd ask the right questions to kind of bring them back onto the topic.
Yep. Yeah, the guiding, I mean, and that's something you get better at with time. There were, I mean, I caught myself asking a couple of dichotomous questions where it was like a this or a that. You know, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I still slip into it. I think the majority of my questions were open-ended, but you know, you're always gonna you're always gonna make mistakes, right? And hold on, guys. And in some ways, fewer kids is harder than more kids, because there's fewer kids to provide ideas and to like just participate in the conversation. And in some ways, fewer kids is easier too, right? All right. All right. Yes. Go someplace else. What else? All right. So I'll upload the video to some.